Order to the December 5th, 2018 meeting of the Coralville Planning and Zoning Commission. Can I get a roll call, please?
Snyder. Wen.
Here.
Taylor. Wenman.
Here.
Aaron's.
Here.
Fessler. Here. And Wilson.
Okay, we'll consider motion to approve tonight's agenda.
So moved.
Moved by Aaron.
Second.
Second by Fessler. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Yeah, motion carries all ayes. Okay, consider approval of November 7, 2018 minutes.
So moved.
Moved by Aaron's.
Second.
Second by Wynn. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, next item of business is to recognize the new chairperson for next year, and that will be Karen Fessler. She will be the chair next year, and we need to elect a new co-chair. Anybody wish to volunteer or nominations for co-chair for next year?
Has Laura done it?
Laura has not done it.
Is she re-upped?
But we're not sure she's moving back.
Would you like to?
Like to do it? Co-chair?
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, I'll nominate Lynn for co-chair. Second?
Second.
Second by Aaron's. Any other nominations? Okay, we'll now vote on Lynn for co-chair for next year. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
Welcome aboard.
Yeah, you'll be the new co-chair for next year. Okay. Item 6 is a public hearing request by the Governor's Group and James Street LLC for the approval of the rezoning from C2 to CPUD1 lots 1 and 2, a PUD-B site plan of lot 1, and the preliminary and final plats of lots 1 and 2 of Capri Plaza. Okay, does anyone wish to address the commission on this item? Public hearing is now open. Okay, then we will close the public hearing. We'll consider approval of rezoning of lots 1 and 2.
So moved.
Moved by Aaron's.
Second.
Second by Fessler. Discussion, Jim?
This is the area on the corner of 6th Avenue and 2nd Street. Scott's got it up there before you, the parking lot there where Randy used to park, or parks all of his vehicles, and where the Sinclair gas station used to be. Behind that, in that triangular piece, there's a small apartment house in there. That's going to be part of this development also. And then over to the west is where the former Capri Lodge stood. Half of it's still standing, or more than half of it's still standing anyhow. So it's that's the whole parcel for the rezoning. All of that is zoned right now as a C2 arterial commercial. The request is to zone it to a CPUD because parcel A, it's going to be divided into 2 lots, lot 1 and lot 2, and they're going to have to function together because of the parking and the actual traffic pattern that's going to go around them. So it's being rezoned as a CPUD2 from a C2.
Any further question or discussions on the rezoning? Now we'll vote. All in favor of the rezoning, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carries all ayes. Now we'll consider approval of the PUD-B site plan of lot 1.
So moved.
Moved by Wynn.
Second.
Second by Fessler. Jim, discussion on the site plan?
As you can see on lot number 1, right up against 2nd Street or Highway 6 is a multi-tenant commercial building. It will have several different tenants in it. Could be retail, could be restaurant, anything that would fit in a normal C2 arterial zoning district. Parking is mostly behind it. As you can see, there's parking behind it, and then there's going to be some additional parking for it over on lot 2 as well that they may or may not need for this lot here, depending on what the uses are. Chances are they'll need some of that parking over there. There's 2 access points, one up there off of 6th Avenue, which is about as far north as we can get it, which is really good because it's not right up against the intersection of 2nd Street like it used to be. And then there's one on 2nd Street, which is an existing entrance that exists now for the Capri Lodge, and it's a shared access point. The access points along 2nd Street were picked by the DOT as we did the reconstruction of Highway 6 or 2nd Street. and they're where they are. The DOT is not going to allow any more, so we have to use the existing access on Second Street as it is. There's, the building is a single-story building. I think if you go a little further, there's some images of the building there. We worked with them quite hard. This is in our town center district, so it's subject to all of the town center design standards, building materials and what have you, whatever we have in our town center district plan. So as you can see, we have moved, the building has moved up. The bottom picture on the right is kind of a view from the east to the west. So that would be the south part of the building, or the building that faces Second Street. No parking here because it's close to the highway, and there's no drive aisle there or anything either. It's strictly sidewalk and pedestrian at that point. This building, as we first saw it, was basically a single-story building, and one of the requirements of the town center district is it has to have a two-story appearance. If it isn't a two-story building, it has to appear to be a two-story. So we've worked with them quite hard. They've been very cooperative with us, and we have come up with this final design. As you can see above the signage area where it says 10 of signage, there's a clear story area. And that raised up the building to give it more of a two-story height, and they've worked with the pitch on the roof to give us a little more height. So this building is actually about 30, to the peak, it's actually about 37 feet high. So it pretty much is as high as a two-story building. But I believe that the clear story and the space above the clear story and the pitch of the roof, and as you can see, the roof along the length of the roof has got some variation in it. It's not just a straight line straight across there. And if you look at those from the backside, you would see that those are kind of like our A and B building down in the IRL. There's a flat area there for the cooling towers. There is on the east end of the building an outdoor patio proposed and so that would be the logical spot for the restaurant on the east end of the building.
So this is the building on the Sinclair lot?
That's on the Sinclair lot.
Yes.
That's on the Sinclair lot. It's mostly brick. There's stone and brick on it. There's some metal where the sign panels are is metal. The roof is a standing seam metal. And there's some metal accent along the top on the corners here. So we're very pleased with what we've wound up for the building here. Actually, the location, the way the building sits in there, as well as all the building materials on it.
How many apartment units, Jim?
Huh?
How many apartment units?
There are no apartment units.
Okay.
So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 possible commercial units.
Okay.
We
Any
asked-
further questions?
Tried to
or
talk them into
discussion?
apartment units, but they didn't want to put apartments here, so.
Can that be up to 6, or like can they reconfigure, maybe do two?
It
two
kind of depends on how they rent it. I mean, they would
Yeah.
have the option to rent 2 spaces to 1 person if they
Right.
wanted it. That's entirely up to them on how they rent it, but.
So it's up to
it's-
6 commercial?
Yeah, as you can
units.
see, it's designed for 6 storefronts with the doors there. But it's kind of like some of the other areas we have like this in town, or designs like this we have in town. You know, depending on what size they want in there, they can take 1 and divide it if they want to, or they can, use
Okay.
2 or 3, or they might even be pleased if they get 1 big user and they can have 1 guy for the whole thing. So, yeah, they have a lot of flexibility on how they can use it.
Any additional questions or discussion? If not, we will vote on the approval of the PUD-B site plan of Lot 1. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carries all ayes. Now we'll consider approval of the preliminary plat of Lots 1 and 2.
So moved.
Moved by Aaron's,
Second.
second by Fessler. Anything different here, Jim?
The only thing different here is, as you can see between lots 1 and 2, there's a vertical line that goes up there.
Yes.
That was an access to the back of the trailer court at one point in time. That's city property. It's city property now, but it's going to be dedicated to the city. It's going to be part of those lots. It couldn't be ever used as a public street anyhow. The DOT told us we couldn't use it for an access point or a street. We could only use a shared access point, so
So will those little apartments behind the motel, the old motel, will those be coming out as well?
those are gone as well.
Okay.
I don't believe there's apartments in any of those buildings now. They're all empty.
Any questions or discussion on the preliminary plat? Now we'll vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries all aye. Now we'll consider approval of final plat of Lots 1 and 2.
So moved.
Moved by Fessler,
Second.
Second by Wynn. Anything different we need to look at, Jim, on the final plan?
No, I don't have anything on that.
Okay. We'll vote on the final plan. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? And motion carries, all ayes. Okay, that's the last thing we have on tonight's agenda. And Jim, there's something you want to discuss at the conclusion of this meeting?
Yeah, I wanted to show you something. We've been, the council has discussed before this situation, and so they've kind of asked us to look into this. So what we have here is this section of town. It's kind of bordered by the railroad track on the east, and it goes all the way over to 20th and 5th Street up to the railroad tracks. So what you have on this map here, the red area you see on the map is all, at the present time, R2 zoning. And there isn't very much, R2 allows a duplex. There aren't that many duplexes in there. And so the council has tasked us to look at that and just to kind of take a look and see what it looks like and report back to them. They want to, thinking about rezoning the R2 to an R1, which would better reflect the actual uses that are there. Anything that's in there that isn't an R1 use, of course, is grandfathered in as long as it's in there. You don't have to remove it, you don't have to do away with it, it's in there. So you can see along 5th and 5th Street, 5th Avenue Place and 5th Ave, up north of the school system, where that's red, right there, that is all zoned R2 at this point in time, but it's very little duplexes in there. As you go over to 4th Avenue and 3rd Avenue, it's kind of the same thing. And then up on the north of 7th Street, it's basically the same. So all that property now is zoned R2, and its primary use and the primary way it's being used now is R1. So it's just something they want to look at to see whether or not, it's feasible or it's desirable or whatever. And then there's some more sections along 5th Street to the south, all those from Old Town Hall all the way along 5th Street, that's also R2. And there are a few duplexes there, but generally it's all single family as well. And then a little further to the west, excuse me, up there around 20th Avenue and 9th Street Place, that also is R2, and basically it's an R1 use. There's some areas up there in the south we looked at too, but they're R2 and they're basically totally R2 use, so we're not looking at that at this point in time. This one here, we're trying to decide on how we want to handle this. There's probably from 827 up there on the east side of 20th Avenue down through 813 is all single family, and then there's a couple duplexes in there. And then on the other side of the street, there's one duplex. So we haven't decided how to handle that yet because the green is actually an R3 zoning district, so it's kind of bordered by R3, and the yellow is all the way up 19th Avenue as duplex. So maybe we just leave it the way it is, and they can kind of kick that back and forth and see what they want to do with that. But, you can think about this and how you would feel about the rezoning, and if there's any feedback that you want to give to me or give to the council members from looking at this, feel free to do that, because I think they would appreciate any kind of feedback that you folks might have on this.
So we can just give you feedback maybe next month after we think about this?
You can, yeah, or if you want to call them ahead of that, that's fine. I would think next month would be fine for them.
So if they would be grandfathered in, meaning that if you had a duplex today that you are renting, you can continue to do so until it probably sells or until you tear it down and try to do something?
Not until it sells. As long as it stays a duplex and they keep their rental permit up, it'll be grandfathered in until they either tear it down, tornado takes it out, fire takes it out, anything. It's a non-conforming use, so if it's destroyed to 60% of its value, it loses its grandfather use.
Okay. So in case of a fire, can that be rebuilt as a duplex most likely?
It can be if it is not destroyed
Right.
more than 60% of its value, yeah. Yeah, if it's basically a repair, not a rebuild, then, you have that percentage that you could go ahead and just keep your grandfather clause.
Out of all those properties in the red, especially down over towards Coralville Central area. What are you, a handful, 10, 15 properties that may be a duplex now?
Yeah, there's probably, in the whole thing, whole area, there's probably in the neighborhood of 30 duplexes, something like that, in all that we're looking at. That's why it's really, and what, I think what we don't want to do, or one of the things that may be a driving force here is something like Iowa City looked at as, they were trying to have, since it's R2 zoning, they were trying not to take the old homes down and put a duplex in there for rental. This is what they, and the way, excuse me, the way it's zoned today, they could do that. This area is an older town area. There's some really nice old houses here. They're probably, well, they're assessed at less values than a lot of the new houses are not. So, this is some of the more, I don't know what you want to call it, affordable or not, but it's some of more of the less expensive housing. Sure. For starter homes or for something like that, so.
So that can be our homework this month and report back any point.
Yeah,
points we have next
and you
month.
can do it individually. Because it has to be discussed by council, and then council decide whether they'd want to bring it back or want to pursue it or not pursue it. So any feedback you can give them between now and then, or then is fine.
Okay.
And that's all I have.
All right. Anything for next month's meeting yet, or?
We have one item for next month at this point. We have some items that are laying back that we're waiting to get some materials on or some clarification on that we've asked for, but the only thing I formally have for next month is one final and preliminary plat.
And we'll consider a motion to adjourn then.
So moved.
Moved by Wayne.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned.